Good morning, everyone. So, guys, we're going to be talking about nuclear war by Christmas. We're going to be talking about the potential for boots on the ground by Christmas in Ukraine. We're going to be talking about the situation in Georgia. We're going to be talking about the situation in Syria, how that's looking like it's building up into a wider regional conflict. In fact, it already is a wider regional conflict. Keir Starmer's 6 points for progress, or whatever he's calling him. Guys, these are going to be his 6 points of demise. When you put it like he has done, and he was very clear on this, and he said, you know, judge me by the outcome or something. We'll get onto that. But I think Keir Starmer could also be gone by Christmas. And we've now got food shortages being warned by farmers by Christmas. So, guys, the world is absolutely wild. And guess what? You've probably still not got 3 liters of water per person per day. Guys, the situation is going from bad to worse. Water in the United Kingdom looks like it's not going to be something that we can rely on anymore, because the privatization that has happened to the water system in the United Kingdom has just been an absolute disaster. The water we're drinking is getting worse and worse. The profits we're giving to the shareholders are getting bigger and bigger. And what do they say? Oh, we need to put prices up. No, you don't need to put prices up. You need to stop paying out huge dividends and start investing in the system that you're responsible for. Anyway, guys, let's just get straight into it, shall we? So we're going to go straight to the share map, guys, because if you've not noticed, I'm in a little bit of a push for time this morning. So, situation in Ukraine. You've got the town here, guys, Valyeka, Novosilka, and then you've got Pokrovsk. I want to focus on Pokrovsk a little bit today, guys. So this is how the ground looked on the 4th of November, 2024. I'm going to zoom forwards right now, and I want you to watch how much ground the Russians are taking per day. I'm just going to zoom straight forwards, guys, and I'm going to zoom in to Pokrovsk. So Pokrovsk here, guys, is key because of the movements these guys are making. So remember how I said they're going to come west, and they're going to use this. Let me zoom in a bit more. They're going to use this series of rivers, reservoirs. I mean, strategically and tactically, it's perfect. You've got a road on the safe side. So for the guys on this side, you've got easy transport, and you've also got this river. So anyone wanting to charge over, it's going to be difficult because of that river's in the way. I did say I think they're going to get up to this like little junction point here, just northwest of Novotorisky, and head north, and using these water features going north. Now it looks like they may be heading north here. Doesn't really matter. What matters is that they're staying around 10 kilometers away from. Should we go from there? No, let's go from there. They're staying around 10 kilometers from Pokrovsk. That's because they're encircling them. They're capturing them because they're in range of their 120 millimeter mortars, which they are in. They've got a plentiful supply, and they can put indirect fire on. In fact, let's just get rid of. How do we get rid of that? Let's see what the back end of Pokrovsk is. So to the back end, yeah, 11.4. So so it's like the whole of Pokrovsk is in 120 millimeter mortar range. I think the 120 millimeter mortars is, I think it's 13 or 14 kilometers. It depended on the ammunition, but either way, it's well within range of that. So that's the situation on the ground, guys. There isn't a front line in Ukraine. The Ukrainians don't have anything to push back with, and that's kind of the situation. We're just seeing a slow retreat from the Ukrainians. Remember, the European Union came out yesterday and they said if and when Donald Trump pulls funding from I've got something on me. If and when Donald Trump pulls the funding from Ukraine, then that would be the European Union's marker, I guess, to step up and start funding the Ukrainians. Guys, right now, I just think we're waiting because nobody seems to know what's happening. I think people are being slow. People are thinking about Donald Trump getting in power. None of it's going to make any difference in the grand scheme of things. So let's just talk quickly about this threat that happened. I know this is it's 18th of November, so not really that old. Let me go onto the share screen. But can you remember when there was the threat of nuclear bombardment by Christmas? this guy, you know, Russia threatens UK with nuclear war by Christmas in chilling World War III warning. Now, whereas I don't really see the credibility in the nuclear threat by Christmas, I do see the threat by Christmas. You know, I do see an uptick in sabotage. I do see an uptick in asymmetric warfare, cyber warfare, grey warfare. You know, these attacks on our financial systems, attacks on our water systems, certainly, attacks on our energy grid. So I do see an uptick coming by Christmas. Remember, they're telling us what's happening. Nothing's hidden anymore. So a former spokesperson for Putin has warned Brits of nuclear war by Christmas after Ukraine was granted permission to fire Western long-range missiles. Now, again, you've got to understand the case use for nuclear weapons in the United Kingdom. Like, what would be the goal to achieve? Unless you do a catastrophic strike with a nuclear weapon, it's kind of pointless. What I mean by a catastrophic strike is you need to take out everything on that country. So you need to take out all their military bases, all their ports, all their docks, all their capacity to receive nuclear weapons from another country. But even then, if the United Kingdom was struck by nuclear weapons, then we've got our own submarines that we don't even know where they are. And those nuclear submarines would strike back on Russia. So the nuclear threats to the United Kingdom, nuclear war by Christmas, that kind of means that, goodbye to Russia by Christmas as well. So it makes no sense. But what does make a lot of sense is asymmetric warfare in and around Christmas time. Remember, it's not actually been that long since we let the Ukrainians use these long-range systems to strike targets in Russia. So it's going to take time to build up, to build up a plan, a mission template, and understand what targets are going to be struck. Yes, of course, all these targets will be pre-identified. All the personnel and the people in the United Kingdom, these people will be pre-identified. But there's got to be, again, that phrase I like using, temporal markers, whereby, the Russians are not going to just want to try and do everything at once. They're going to want to try and achieve a desired effect for further destabilization. So they're going to be thinking about that. They're going to be planning that. And in and around Christmas time, guys, that is when it's going to have its biggest effect. So we've also got the farmers now, guys. The farmers are warning. I'll put all these links in the description. So the farmers are warning of food shortages by Christmas as strikes will escalate. Will Labour listen? No, sorry, Labour will listen, and that's one of the farmers quoting. Obviously, all these links in the description, guys. I'm just going to read through this. So, because I'm in a bit of a rush this morning. Britain could face food shortages before Christmas if the government fails to address mounting concerns over inheritance tax changes. A farmer has warned that Britain could face food shortages before Christmas if the government fails to address. I'm literally just saying the same thing. So this comes from a guy called Matt Cullen, who is helping organise next week's planned farmers' protest in London. He told GB News that potential shortages depend on how much the government wants to play this game. So, guys, listen, I'm going to tell you now, there's going to be no backtracking from the government. Why? Because this all to me seems like it's part of a bigger plan. It's part of a bigger European plan. It's part of a bigger plan to get rid of local farmers, smaller farmers, mid-tier farmers. It's a plan to get rid of those and control the food system. Now, I don't know whether that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. I would suspect it's going to be a bad thing, but I guess, only time will tell. But this is why the government are not going to back down 1 inch. And I think Keir Starmer is going to stay in power until this... I think Keir Starmer is going to stay in power until this the farmers inheritance tax bill is until all that's calmed down, and then I think Keir Starmer is going to step down. He's going to be ousted. There's going to be a vote of no confidence. I don't know what it's going to be, but these 6 key where are they? So the Keir Starmer's 6 key priorities, I feel that is him setting himself up for failure. I did a video on it last night and I just went through them and I gave commentary. And I thought, well, hang on a minute. Nobody, only an absolute buffoon puts a metric on something. So Keir Starmer has outlined 6 priorities of his government with measurable milestones for the public to judge him by. So, like, honestly, only an absolute buffoon would put measurable milestones, because he can fail on each one of those now. And even if he, and again, you know, he didn't put, I didn't realize this, I should have mentioned it yesterday. Where is the 6 key points? Where is the 7th on migration? What's the migration policy with a key milestone? Because if there's no key milestones, saying he's going to smash the gangs, meaningless. Like, you know, I could say, listen, guys, my definition of smashing the gangs is actually having more migrants coming to the United Kingdom, but just less gangs operating them. Therefore, by my metrics that I didn't tell you, I've actually succeeded in smashing the gangs, because nowhere in smashing the gangs did I say I'm going to drop migration. Do you see how the wording comes into play, guys? And, you know, you've got to be very careful what they say. So these six key pledges: higher living standards, 1.5 million new homes, safer streets, children the best start in life, clean energy, and reducing NHS waiting lists. Because they've got metrics, I feel he's setting himself up. I really do, guys. I feel he's setting himself up. Somebody behind the scenes has said, look here, you know, once this farmers thing's over with, you know, you're not going to budge. We're going to blame the farmers stuff on you. You're going to sit back. You're going to go and retire. You'll get your 200 grand a year. You can go and do, I don't know, whatever speeches you want to do, wherever you want to do them. And then we're going to take control of the farmland. That to me seems what, what that is all about. Slightly going back to Ukraine, guys. Now, in fact, we'll go to Syria next, because the situation in Syria. I do want to go on the shared map here, guys, because it's wild what's happening, and I think this is going to spill over into Lebanon. So just a map here, guys. You've got Syria, you've got Cyprus, you've got Lebanon, and down here you've got Israel. So Israel goes all the way up here. So right now you've got a load of troops reinforcing Damascus. So troops from Iraq and troops from Iran. Now it's been said that these guys are militias. They're not going to be militias. My speculation is that these are not militias. These are actually military from Iran, from Iraq, and they're sending the manpower in now. This initial manpower investment into Damascus, look at the proximity from Damascus to Lebanon. Now, initially, I thought these troops could be used to go over the Golan Heights into Israel. But what I'm thinking now is these guys could quite easily move from Syria to Lebanon, and then there could be troops to reinforce this southern border. Guys, when you have that many troops in a certain region so quickly, you know, it becomes very easy for them to conduct a strike. I can remember when one of the comments said, do we think that there's chance of the militias mounting an offensive over the Golan Heights into Israel? I said, no, there's not enough troops. They don't have enough logistics base, a big enough logistics base. Right now, that logistics base is building up in Syria. So what I think the most likely course of action would be, troops from Iraq, troops from Iran, troops from Syria potentially are going to cross over the border into Lebanon, and then they're going to be in this in the Lebanese southern border and the Israeli northern border. Remember, guys, you know how we said we're going to get this divergence between the United States and the United Kingdom focusing. The United States will focus in the Middle East, and the United Kingdom will focus in Ukraine. Well, it all becomes irrelevant because of this little place here. Right there, I think, on the tip, there's something called RAF Akrotiri. RAF Akrotiri is a huge RAF base. Now, I would suspect heavily that this is full at the moment with US forces, whoever you want to, whatever forces you want to say they are. These guys can be billeted there. There's a huge runway. There's huge fast jet capability. There's fast jet servicing capability. There's aircraft servicing capability. And aircraft can fly in from the United States. They can land there. They can offload their troops. Those troops can be put in billets, they can be put in accommodation, they can be fed, they can be clothed, they can be, you know, looked after, they can be put in barracks basically until they're needed to push forwards into whatever region in the Middle East. So the United Kingdom is always going to, so until David Lammy comes out and says, United States, you guys are not using RAF Akrotiri, the whole diversions, that's how you know it's fake. That's how you know it's pomp. That's how you know it's pageantry. And it's how you know it's kind of like, you know, it's just a circus, guys. You know, it's just a scripted circus. Let me come off there. Right. Back to Ukraine now, guys. I should have done this first, I guess. So can you remember when we said that when we were talking about the North Korean troops in Ukraine? And I gave you the three options. I said, first of all, they're going to be kept as a unit and they're going to be used as a big push. Well, the big pushers come in, the Russians don't need them. The second place I said they could be used is they'll be tested in the Kursk region, because in the Kursk region, it's very controlled. It's a very controlled area of operation. The Ukrainians, they're not cornered as such, but they're very they're holding on daily. So the Ukrainians don't have depth support in the Kursk region. Now, which is what happened, the Russians tested the North Koreans in that area. Guys, it's been an absolute catastrophe for the North Koreans. So what I said is, these North Koreans are probably going to be used to do something with drones, develop drones, help with drones, refurbish drones, fly drones. So it turns out now, guys, an article from today that where is it? Meanwhile, thousands of North Korean soldiers stationed at checkpoints in Russia's embattled Kursk region, Oblast, or Kursk Oblast, okay, they've got that wrong, doesn't matter, are being kept away from direct combat. Ukraine's military-run National Resistance Center reported between 10,000 and 12,000 dispatched troops are being used as second echelon, as ties deepen between Russia and North Korea. So there you've got it, guys. You know, the North Korean troops that went out to Ukraine, they're not being, they're not deemed to be battle worthy, or they don't have the capacity to operate in a modern battlefield. And that's what again, I was quite fair to the North Koreans. I said, look, we just don't know. I said that's what I suspect, but you've got to understand the North Koreans have not fought a modern war since, I mean, you could argue. What you do, there's two things that people get mistaken. You can have a highly trained soldier who's got no experience, and you can also have a highly experienced soldier who's got no experience, who's got no training. Now, people seem to mismatch these and use them synonymously. They're totally different. British Airborne Forces, World War II at Arnhem Landings, they had little to zero airborne forces experience, but they were highly trained and they succeeded. Ukrainian troops, a lot of the Ukrainian troops on the front line are highly experienced, but they lack the training. So, it's always best to have a highly trained and highly experienced military, but that just doesn't always work. So one way the West get around this is by, doing really intense training packages, going to different countries, training different climates, training with different armies, training in different weapon systems. But the North Koreans, they had a poorly trained military and with zero experience, so it was kind of a no-brainer where they were going to go. But I wanted to be fair. I didn't want to throw dirt on them. And seeing the South Koreans operate as well in the South Koreans, who are heavily subsidized by the United States, seeing the South Koreans operate when they had this like parliament coup, martial law thing, I thought, right, okay, there's no way these North Koreans are anyway up to any Western, Eastern, Soviet standard at all. They lack the training, guys, and they lack the experience, and they lack the leadership as well. And having good leadership is key, because you need leaders who can make their own decisions. And the North Korean culture doesn't allow people to make good decisions, because they're always scared of making the wrong decision and doing something wrong. So they're always waiting for somebody to tell them what to do, which you can kind of take that model over to the Russians as well. because the Russians have a system of, I will lead from the rear. I am commander. I have all experience. I'm going to stay to rear so I can see whole battlefield. No, that doesn't work, guys. You know, you need to lead from the front. You always lead from the front. There's no exception, guys. You know, you cannot lead from the back. You know, the argument where, you know, he's saying, I will stay at the rear because I've got all the experience and I can see the full battlefield, doesn't work, guys, because you've got a private soldier at the front and he's seeing something. He's got to pass that message all the way back to the commander. Then he's got to try and interpret that through Chinese whispers. Then he's like, right, are you seeing tanks or tracked vehicles? So that message has to go back up. And then you see how there's just huge problems, guys, on the front line with communication, with credibility. Because, you know, that how does that commander know if he if he trusts that person who's telling him the information? It just doesn't work. If you have your commanders at the front, they can see the battlefield in front and they can direct assets. They can bring in fire support. They can bring in machine guns, and they can start directing the battle from the very first moment you're in contact. That's why, again, you know, slightly going off topic, guys, but that's why Britain's going to lead this contingent. Britain will lead this coalition that is going to be in Ukraine very, very soon. Guys, it's wild. I wanted to bring that up, guys, that nuclear war thing by Christmas, because like I said, you know, I don't see the threat. I just see it. No, it's not going to happen. But what I do see, guys, is an uptick in these attacks. We've also got these farmers' protests, so our adversaries will be fanning those flames, you know. And I do see things coming by Christmas, because that's when it's going to have the most effect. When people want to sit down, people want to relax, people want to be happy, and we're going to have all this fear and, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Disruption in our society. Anyway, guys, that seems to me like it's coming for Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. Anyway, guys, I'm going to back to grid. I'll get you guys another video later.